Let me be clear. If you're in a state where hurricanes often strike, like Florida or the Gulf Coast or into Texas, a vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated now. Everything is more complicated if you're not vaccinated and a hurricane or natural disaster hits. Let me be clear. If you're in a state where hurricanes often strike, like Florida or the Gulf Coast or into Texas, a vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated now.
A vital part.
Everything is more complicated if you're not vaccinated and a hurricane or natural disaster hits.
A vital part of preparing for a hurricane is to get vaccinated now. Now, people, you all know that I'm in Florida now, and we're living through our first hurricane, but we're southeast, and it's going around to the west and hitting Tampa, I believe it's where it's making landfall, give or take. We got a tornado warning at 5:15 this morning, telling us to go hunker down in a basement. And we don't have a basement, so we found the only room with no windows and hunkered down for a bit. But this video of Joe Biden seemingly being an ultimate buffoon has been making the rounds on Twitter in the last couple of days. People should know this is not a new video of Joe Biden. This is something he said, I believe it was last August. So don't recycle it as though he said it the other day in respect of Hurricane Ian. Not that it changes anything, because it doesn't, because it's a fundamentally psychotic thing to say. The best way to prepare for a hurricane is to get vaccinated. I had to Google it just to see what was going on. And there was a fact check that was done on it. And the fact check, as true fake fact checkers do, is pure rubbish spin. From Reuters, and we know the connection between Reuters and pharma. There's a connection among the people who are carrying out these fact checks and their interest in pharmaceuticals. But setting that aside, the internet can do that, make those connections for me. They did a fact check, and it's from November 2021. Fact check: Biden urged those in hurricane-prone states to get COVID shots in case of evacuation. He said the best thing to do or a vital thing to protect in hurricane-prone areas, get vaccinated. The verdict? Missing context. President Joe Biden urged Americans in hurricane-prone states to get vaccinated to be prepared. He did. Fact check true. You can explain it the way you want. It's fact check true. Exploiting of natural disasters to push a vaccination policy, a campaign. Okay, but there's a beautiful thing here. In terms of misrepresenting what people were outraged about that clip for. While the comments on the post imply that Biden is confused and saying that the vaccine will protect from the hurricanes, nobody said that. Nobody understood it that way. Or anybody who did understand it that way is either deliberately misunderstanding, misframing, or just, has comprehension issues. Nobody was suggesting that. What they were suggesting is that it's preposterous to specify that a vital preparation for hurricanes is to get vaccinated. But listen to how they spin it. Oh, they were saying he's confused. No, nobody was saying that. It is clear that being unvaccinated could raise risks in situations related to hurricanes, such as evacuations or staying in shelter. Oh, and that's because we live in such a psychotic, tribalist world where in the event of a natural disaster, evacuation, whatever, they would actually ask your vaccination status before putting you in emergency shelters. You think I'm lying, people? Let me see if I pulled up this article. I didn't. But when they had that volcano erupting on the island, I forget where, and they were evacuating people from the island, the cruise ships were only taking vaccinated people fleeing. Delusional, psychotic, madness, absurd. It's absurd. It's clown world. We are living in an upside-down clown world. Yeah. Vital, get vaccinated. Because if you're not, and you need emergency shelter, if you're not vaccinated, you might not get it. You know what that's called? Extortion to some. Do something to your body or you will not get vital assistance that you need. Get out. Get out. You're out. Okay, sorry. The dog has gotten into bad habits of barking. So that's where we're at today. Speaking of clown world, this is going to be fascinating. Chloe Cole, for those of you who have not been following on Twitter, I I don't know the exact, I don't know how to describe the situation, and it made for preparing a difficult title for the stream. Chloe Cole is an 18-year-old woman. She's going to explain herself in greater detail, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions. But an 18-year-old woman who, at the age of 12 or 13, give or take, as she has explained, felt, I'll say indoctrinated, but felt influenced by the media, by social media, to think that she was transgender. Told her parents, well, we'll get the details, but bottom line, Chloe Cole at the age of 15 or 16 was given a double mastectomy as part of gender transition therapy after having been given hormones, I think at the age of 12 or 13, and has now, as I understand, a great many people with what is referred to as gender dysphoria do ultimately realize it was something of a phase in a non-judgmental way, that they have now realized that was not the solution to whatever they were going through. And Chloe Cole has now become a vocal, not an activist, an outspoken opponent of gender transition therapy on minors. And her story is amazing. And it takes a great amount of courage to come out and do this, period, let alone to, sit down for a long format interview. And I ask invasive, very personal questions, and I'm going to. I've warned her that I'm going to, and if I ever cross a line, she will let me know, and we'll move on. But this is going to be phenomenal. So that's it. We're going to bring in Chloe Cole. We are going to go to Rumble at about 15 minutes after Chloe explains who she is, because this is not a discussion that can be had on YouTube, because it's a discussion that goes radically against the narrative that is being pushed by the media, that is being pushed by an industry. Because transgender therapy, top surgery, bottoms, it's become an industry. And when things become industries, they get corrupt. And when things get corrupt, people don't want people having open, free discussion about it. So without further ado, I'm going to be bringing in Chloe. It's going to be fantastic. Chloe, how goes the battle?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you for coming. It takes a degree of courage, which I'm not sure that you appreciate the courage that you have and that are showing to do all of this. Maybe you do, but I still think you might be too young to even appreciate the courage that it requires to do this. And you're doing it reflexively, instinctively. But my goodness, thank you. Now, hold on. Do I want to bracket out like this or like this? Which do you prefer? Now let's do this. This is better. Less wasted space. Chloe, 30,000-foot overview for anybody who does not know who you are.
So my name is Chloe Cole, and I am a 18-year-old detransitioner from the Central Valley. So in case you don't know, like a detransitioner is basically somebody who went through like medical transition and then eventually came to either regret it or they just decided that it wasn't the right path for them. And so they've permanently gone back on their decision to live as their birth sex.
Now you're 18 years old, which means that you were born in 2004.
Yes.
2004. That is, COVID is going to be the new frame of reference for this generation, but 9/11 was our frame of reference. You're post 9/11. You don't even have that memory in your head. It's surreal how young you are. Where are you from? You're from California?
Yeah, I'm from California. I'm in the Central Valley area.
And if I may ask, again, tell me, at the reluctance, how many siblings do you have? Are you an only child?
I'm the youngest of 5 children.
Youngest of 5 children, all from one marriage?
No, all my older siblings are half siblings.
Okay.
I have one brother and one brother and one sister on each side.
And so then I presume that means your parents are divorced, remarried, and you're the product of a second marriage.
Yeah.
And what, if I may ask, what do your parents do? No more detail, just in terms of professions. Are they professionals, teachers, lawyers?
Well, I can't say what my mom is, but my dad is. My dad's. He's working with. I mean, he's kind of switching between jobs, but he mostly works in like IT.
Okay, cool. And so, and now I won't ask any more questions about that, but age difference between first and last of your half siblings. Like, are you way in a different generation, or are you all roughly the
Yeah,
same age?
I'm about 7 to 8 years younger than my older siblings.
7 to 8 years younger than your older
Hmm.
siblings. All right. All right. Now, Chloe, let's start from the beginning, because it's going to require starting from the beginning of your life. I know some things that, I mean, I've been following you for a while, so I know more about you than maybe some people, but um, I guess one issue, one of the underlying main points in all of your story is that you were diagnosed with certain, let's say not what do they call them? I don't know what the
Comorbidities?
in mental. I don't want to say issues, disorders. I don't know. It's not to be judgmental at all.
Mm.
Were you diagnosed? You were diagnosed with mental issues at a young age, or at a younger age?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, but I had several diagnoses after I detransitioned, or like during my transition. After I'd been like a few years after I'd been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Um, I would say maybe about like 2 years into medically transitioning, I was diagnosed with social anxiety and depression. And after I had detransitioned, I was diagnosed with autism and body dysmorphia. I would say the body dysmorphia went undiagnosed for maybe like 5 to 6 years after. So,
After detransit, so let's say,
no, after I started experiencing dysphoria.
if I may ask, like, when do the first of the diagnoses come? Do they come at a young age as a child, or do they come around adolescence?
Um, I mean, the only diagnosis I really had when I was a kid, I was 7 when I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it wasn't until a few years later in my adolescence that I was diagnosed with everything else. So,
That's it. Okay, that's interesting. So diagnosed with ADHD. If I may ask, do they prescribe medication for that at that age?
um, when I was about 10, they put me on. They kept switching me between medications because they ended up not working. I think I can't remember what the first one was, where they switched between like Concerta to Adderall to
Okay, so
stuff of that sort.
this
But
this
I was pretty young when they put me on those medications. I was like 10 or 11 when they had me on like an adult male dose of, they said, of Concerta.
I don't know what that is. I know the Adderall, but I presume they're all part and parcel of the same roster of medications that they prescribe for these things. 10 years old, ADHD. If I may ask, like, what was the behavior that was indicating that you might have had something like that led to that diagnosis?
It was mostly like difficulty concentrating in class or on like my assignments, my homework. Like I would usually like draw during class, and I found it really difficult to stay focused. That's the gist of it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I'm reading the chat, and someone says ADHD diagnosis is always given before they decide on autism. I've got a family member who was diagnosed with Asperger's, and a best friend kid is diagnosed with autism. I'm very familiar with it. But for those who don't know, like, from your perspective as someone who's diagnosed with autism,
Mm.
how does that materialize within your own mental framework? Like, what does that mean to you on a day-to-day basis in terms of how you see the world, how you interact with the world?
Um, I would say the main way it affects me would be socially. I struggle a lot socially. I always kind of have, like, I was always in school, like especially like middle and elementary school. I was kind of like the odd one out. I found it difficult to make and keep friends, and I didn't fit in a whole lot, especially with other girls, I found.
And one of the things that I think a lot of people tend to say vis-a-vis autism, Asperger's, is reading social cues. People say, I mean, do you find, or do you find that you have difficulty reading social cues, knowing if people are happy, sad, responding well, and does it cause an anxiety
Hmm.
internally?
Usually I can read people's emotions pretty well, but like a lot of the more subtle things, it gets pretty difficult.
Okay, so this is very interesting. So 10 years old, ADHD, you're put on whatever medication, whatever doctors decide. Are these, ask a stupid question, are these clinical psychiatrists? Are you seeing professionals, or is this more informal, like you're just seeing a GP who makes these diagnoses?
Well, during that time, it was quite a bit of time ago, so I can't remember exactly who did it. I'm assuming it was like a child psychiatrist. I was also later when I was diagnosed with depression at like 50, I believe I was 15. They gave me they prescribed me Wellbutrin as well.
You're diagnosed with depression. Is this before, after, or right about the same time that you start going through the transitioning therapy?
This was about 2 years after I started medically transitioning.
And all right, so let's flesh that out. But people, we're going to end this on YouTube right now. I'm just going to post the link so that we can all move over to Rumble. It's the pinned link because this is where we're going to get medical and maybe a little, I won't say graphic, but we're going to go into the details of this. And I got lots of questions. So we're moving from YouTube, move over to Rumble, people.